Josh again, back with the work from home series that we're all experiencing right now, and ways to use Extrahop to be able to manage the new reality that we're all facing of a bunch of teleworkers and hitting your applications and systems in ways that you weren't aware of. Last video I did, the introduction, basically we built a device group and we introduced some of the key metrics on things you could look for within your VPN connections that could indicate problems and issues. So we built the foundation in the previous video. So if you haven't seen that, go ahead back and watch it. Today we're going to dive a little bit deeper. I don't want to put you to sleep, but we're going to look for things like the individual TCP connections. Those really tell a story of what's happening with your VPN connection. So I'm going to click on VPN Client Group, which I've already built in the previous video. And so here, I'm in my VPN client. I'm able to see for the last 7 days who's connecting and what type of bandwidth they're using. Do I have a big spike in bandwidth of SSL or HTTP? How are the applications getting hit? I can have my alerts set up for things like round trip time and other things. But today we're going to spend a little time in TCP. Now, our foundations are TCP. Our co-founders came from F5, so we really understand TCP and the power of it. When you look at TCP, it can tell you a story about how your connection health is. So let's look at some of those kind of key metrics and ways for you to understand that. Once you build your VPN client group, you could also build one for maybe some of your F5 VIPs or other things where your remote workers and remote connections are coming in on. We can do things like how many TCP connections are we accepting? How many outbound connections are there? So that'll tell you back and forth, are we overloading any of our VPN concentrators or with pinning up too many connections? Are our VIPs and our VPN concentrators able to handle that load? Some other kind of health indicators that I want to just introduce you today. A couple ones are retransmission timeouts. So how that essentially works with a retransmission timeout in or out is basically what happens with retransmissions. They're a normal order of things on TCP. You retransmit. And if I don't get an acknowledgement back from you, I put that TCP segment into a timeout bucket. So that can be a 1 to 20 or 30 second delay depending on the connection of that particular connection, right? So if you do retransmit, it can be, it's a 1 to 3 second delay. So essentially, if we see a retransmission timeout, we've tried to retransmit X amount of times and we've actually put it on pause. If that's a VPN connection and you're starting to see that spike up, that could tell a story of like maybe there's some issues there. So what are some of the things? This gets a little bit complicated. So what are some of the things to help us understand these metrics? So let's just click on the Help tab. This will go through each of those individual metrics we just talked about. So here we go. The retransmission, it was 1 to 5 seconds. I was wrong. So the number of retransmission timeouts caused by network congestion as peers were sending data to the current device. So that's an in. So it's a 1 to 5 second stall, right? And so this allows you to be able to understand a little bit more about that metric. So out is caused by network congestion as the device was sending data to its peers. So I'm saying something to you, and now I'm experiencing a retransmission timeout as I'm seeing it, right? So we've had an excessive amount of retransmission. So it's really useful information. So let's dive into that a little bit. Let me go back to where I was. Perfect. So I can look at the retransmission timeouts here. 1068, and I can drill down by group member, IP, or layer 7 protocol. So I can see the application that's using. So is it using VMware View? Is it using Citrix? Is it using a critical application that I need to know about that's sending those RTOs? So I can then go and look and see who the clients are, who the group members are. So I can quickly see that Josh's tower here has 449 of them. Everything really needs to be kept into an order of scale here. 449 is really not a lot, right? Someone can keep on churning. But what we're looking for is major differences in sway. So people are working from home, all of a sudden you see your retransmission timeouts go way up. So what you want to do when you see that, you want to look at the devices that are associated with it, the protocols, and the IP addresses. The protocols are going to give you an idea of who it is. The IP addresses are going to say who's going to be communicating with, and the group members are saying who are those locally discovered devices we see that. So let's just drill into like Josh Tower here. We saw some retransmission timeouts on it. So now I'm into the individual device of Josh Tower. I'm going to go to TCP here. Now I can go a little bit deeper. I saw that there's some retransmission timeouts. Josh Tower is connected via the VPN. Now I'm rocking and rolling. I can see the round trip time. So is it affecting the round trip time? Is there issues there? I can see how the TCP health of inbound and outbound connections for this device. Some of the key things here are connection setup time. How long does it take from a three-way handshake perspective to set that up? So if I'm connecting to a VPN concentrator, firewall, load balancer, and it's doing a TCP termination, if it's taking 30 seconds or is taking 4 or 5 seconds to pin up a three-way handshake, that's an issue. I go send, act, back and forth, and I can't complete that three-way handshake in an effective amount of time. That's a problem. Right now, I'm in the 95th percentile of 10 milliseconds. If you're seeing that high, there's an issue with a three-way handshake getting completed. So I can actually see the retransmission timeouts right here. I can click on those by IP and understand, hey, Josh's tower, who's he out talking to? It looks like Josh's tower is talking to Google. Between those two, they're having retransmission timeouts. So between your VPN concentrator and Josh's laptop out in the field, we're seeing retransmission timeouts. And then you can start to isolate it's on what protocol are those two talking on. So you can dig into it and understand, all right, these two, when they're communicating, are having retransmission timeouts. Let me dig further into that. If you need to get the packets, you could do that with an Extrahop. If you needed to be able to look at the records, you could do that to dig deeper. But what this is telling you is these two conversations are having issues communicating because they're sending data and they're not getting acknowledgement of that. Now, some of the things to do to alleviate it are really going to run the gamut. You could have something like asymmetric routing, overloaded VIP load balancers, overloaded VPN concentrators, a poor connection out of the client machine. So you really want to look and see where the RTOs are coming in from. And then you're also going to look at, are the actual TCP round trip time and other things being affected by the RTOs and the connection setup time. So I'll do more on TCP, but really the summary is look for things like retransmission timeouts and then dive into the devices that are having retransmission timeouts and look at their round trip time and connection setup time and the layer 7 protocol that's being leveraged. Is it affecting the communication? And if it is, what is that protocol moving back and forth? And then is it affecting just that one? And so maybe Josh's laptop is on a poor connection with Comcast, or is everyone getting it and are you seeing it at a certain time or across the day? Right? So those are really some things to arm you with. I know TCP gets sometimes a little bit into the weeds, but it can be very useful and very helpful for trying to troubleshoot the work from home scenarios. And what I'll leave you with is on the actual device page too, the help is super helpful here. So if you click the help in the upper right hand corner, you can be able to dive into the individual help pieces that we already showed you here, being able to understand what those individual metrics mean for you, right? Okay guys, appreciate it.